Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on and indeed conclude at least one component anyway of the 31 days of gangster films and police films from the year 1970 to the present. And as I have mentioned before, it has been my hope that this 31 days discussion series could afford to us, you and me, with the opportunity to be able to speak about as many films as possible over the course of these 31 days with regards to these very electrifying and entertaining genres of cinema, respectively, those being the gangster film genre and the police film genre. And my goodness, it has been such a great pleasure and honor for me to be able to have these 31 days discussions with you, my dear friends, about these films. And so I want to thank you so much, truly thank you so much for everything that you have done, that you have shown to me, your guidance, your observations, your perspectives, your choices, and also for your great examples. All of you set wonderful examples in terms of being brilliant cinema enthusiasts, and so it is my great honor to be able to follow, or to try to follow in your footsteps, and to be inspired by your wonderful enthusiasm for cinema, including for these specific genres. And so in that spirit, let us have one more discussion in the context of the police film genre anyway. There will be a separate video, of course, dealing with the gangster film genre, but first, let us speak about the police film genre today. And what I have today is a classic. It is one of my absolute favorites in the genre. It is thrilling, enthralling. It remains that way. It has always been that way since I first saw it many years ago. This is a film that continues to captivate, enthrall, shock, stun, horrify, as well as be thoroughly entertaining from top to bottom, from start to finish, from beginning to end, and everywhere in between. My dear friends, this is one for the ages for a number of reasons. This is from a filmmaker, from a director whose works we have indeed spoken about over the course of these 31 days previously. But I wanted to bring this along as well, because I would dare say too that of the films that are in the filmography of this director, this is among my very favorites from him. And as I say, I'm very proud to be able to bring this to the discussion table in the context of these 31 days. I should say too that this is a film that I think could be described also, or could be discussed very reasonably and very comfortably in the context of, say, the gangster film genre, because there are some key and very significant characters in this film that are in the gangster world era, that are very much part of the plot in the context of organized crime and the like. So this could be discussed as a gangster film, but I also wanted to discuss it as a police film because it also has main characters that are on the law enforcement side, either the local police, law enforcement, or even this is a film that's taking place in an area of the United States, and so this could also involve bureau level, federal level law enforcement agents, etc. So let us speak about this film in the context of the police film genre. And my goodness, what a fantastic example it is of this genre, my dear friends. We're speaking of a film which is described as being from 1987, producer Art Linson, written by David Mamet, and music by Ennio Morricone, and it has among its brilliant cast people like Charles Martin Smith and Andy Garcia and Robert De Niro as Al Capone and Sean Connery as Malone and Kevin Costner as Elliot Ness. And again, I'm speaking of the work which is described as being from 1987, and the director is the one, the only Brian De Palma. And of course, I'm speaking about that epic work, which is The Untouchables. I love this film. I have loved this film since I first saw it many, many years ago on VHS tape. It scared me, it thrilled me, it shocked me, it surprised me, and ever since then, it has been one of those great cinema journeys. The discovery of Brian De Palma films over the course of the years has, of course, been part of my own personal journey through cinema, but all the way, The Untouchables in that journey, either in Brian De Palma's works or in the context of action-adventure films or films from the 80s or police films or gangster films, whatever the case may be. This film has, in one form or the other, has always been there, has always been have a special place in my heart because of all that it brought to me and all that it meant to me, and also my family, my mother and father in particular. They loved this film when it first came out. It was in 87, and so I was too young to have been able to go to the theater and see it upon its initial release. But my parents went. And I remember they would just be talking about it and talking about it. Oh my goodness, the excitement that was in the household when they'd be speaking about it. My mother in particular, she loved Sean Connery. And of course, this is one of the great Sean Connery performances of the ages. It is one of, if not the greatest and most famous of Sean Connery performances, is not as Malone. And that is one of the great strengths of this film, The Untouchables, is the performances. But what we are talking about, of course, is the story of the bureau agent Elliot Ness and his mission during Prohibition era in Chicago in the United States to try to bring down this gangster kingpin Al Capone, and who's portrayed with such a brilliant ferociousness by Robert De Niro, who's trying to bring down, Elliot Ness is trying to bring down Al Capone and his empire, among which, of course, is also the character Frank Nitti, portrayed with such venom by Billy Drago. And so here we have the battle, the cat and mouse chase, the confrontation between the law enforcement side and the criminal side. And Elliot Ness is, of course, portrayed by Kevin Costner, who gives the role an earnestness, a sincerity that almost shows at the same time as a kind of a naivete that brings about certain, shall we say, rookie mistakes early on. And so we see that he is in many ways maybe somewhat or very much ill-equipped to be able to hope to successfully bring down this very powerful and influential figure that is Al Capone, the Robert De Niro character Al Capone. And so what is he going to do? What are you prepared to do, right? To borrow a phrase from the film. He then, Elliot Ness then begins to become acquainted with and know and rely upon the veteran, street smart, experienced cop that is Malone, who is portrayed by Sean Connery. And here we have the assembly of the team, including the character of Oscar Wallace, Charles Martin Smith character, George Stone, who is portrayed by Andy Garcia, and here we have the team that is tasked with the mission to bring down Al Capone and company. Will they succeed or will they fail? And what will be the end results? What will be the consequences and casualties along the way? And this forms the backbone of the spirit and drive and energy and effervescence, if you will, of this great work, The Untouchables. And so many things to say, so many brilliant and frightening and suspenseful action set pieces, so many iconic scenes involving the Al Capone character, Kevin Costner's Elliot Ness character, Malone, etc. So many scenes, so many iconic landmark moments. And the like, you know, I mean, I don't want to get into too many details lest I spoil it. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it yet. But there's just so many things about this film that are utterly brilliant to me, and they resonate to me, within me, to this very day. Part of a team, baseball. You're nothing but a lot of talking a badge. Here endeth the lesson. 1634 Racine. On and on and on. So many touches, so many homages, so many links. There are moments that, of course, link back very famous, iconic scenes that reference, for instance, Hitchcock works, Battleship Potemkin, and the like. Although there are twists and there are adaptations and there are certain applications that Brian De Palma applies that makes them homages and yet very unique and different, and also sustains the tension and suspense throughout. Brilliant touches throughout. The Brian De Palma touch is fully confident and fully in control, that guides us through this frightening world that is also filled with the possibility of warmth and optimism, as well as the dangers of the enemies and the risks that lurk behind the corners, in the shadows and the darkness, as it were. And so, in this world, right, once again, what are you prepared to do? And that is another great thing about this film, is it not? Is that the consequences are felt with such gravity and gravitas. When deaths occur, they really have an impact. There is a scene, for instance, involving an explosion early on that has similar types of feelings of horror and terror that we might have seen from even early Alfred Hitchcock films. And when we have characters that are in grave danger to their life in person, and when very significant scenes happen, they are really felt, and there is a shock and a sadness and tragedy that reverberates all throughout when these scenes occur. And that is, I think, is a great testament to the power of this film, how it's put together, and the drama, the heightened drama that carries us through when we are engaged with these wonderful scenes and these wonderful characters. And so that is how absorbing and affecting and effective this film is. When death occurs, you really feel it. But also when life occurs and when triumph occurs, you really feel that too. And when I say the word triumph, I do want to mention too, in that echo, the brilliance of the Ennio Morricone score. The score here is like lightning. It's like dynamite. The pulsating rhythms of the drum beat that marches forth through that opening title sequence, which is a brilliant sequence, by the way, with the lettering and the shadows, and then the harmonica type sound, which almost echoes or reminds us of his work, his famous work, legendary work with, say, Sergio Leone in the past. But here we have a forceful and almost righteous type of relentless beat that also gives way to the melancholy and the haunting with other brilliantly applied themes, as well as the triumphant. There are some musical scenes of triumph and victory that are so overwhelming and so exhilarating, and they punctuate similarly themed scenes with a perfect type of unison that just guides the film along when those highs are hit. Those high notes are reached with a sense of grace and a sense of triumph. And that is, I think, due in large part to the wonderful combination between image and music, and the music being provided by the legendary Ennio Morricone. So that is one key component that is worth mentioning. I've mentioned, of course, the key contribution of Brian De Palma and those bravura shots, those setups, those set pieces. The tension is immense, and again, there is a scene there's so many scenes. There's so many. I mean, what can I say? Right. What is that which brings me joy? Baseball. Right. There's that scene. There's also 1634 Racine. That scene. There's the rooftops. That scene. There is the bridge. That scene. There is the everything. Oh my goodness, so many things going on here. It's overwhelming and relentless. And it's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And then I have to bring it back also to the brilliance of the performances. These performances are so legendary and so iconic, each for their own reasons. I love the interplay, for instance, between Charles Martin Smith's Oscar Wallace and Kevin Costner's Elliot Ness, and the whole genesis of the idea of possibly getting Al Capone on tax evasion. And those conversations that are had between them. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. And also George Stone, Andy Garcia's George Stone, and his marksmanship, and also his camaraderie and connection with the veteran cop Malone, and that relationship too is also very, very important. Also, Kevin Costner's Elliot Ness and Malone, Sean Connery, that almost father-son like relationship that is had between the two men. It is a real joy to watch. Truly, truly is. And also, I should mention too, on the other side of the coin, Billy Drago's Frank Nitti, so sinister and so deadly. And whenever he appears there, you know something's gonna happen. And then, right under the leadership of Al Capone, Robert De Niro's Al Capone. Wow, what a combination. And Al Capone in the hands of Robert De Niro, those scenes are electrifying. Utterly, utterly electrifying. And then, so there's that. I must mention, however, here, Sean Connery, Malone. This is, as I mentioned, this is a performance for the ages, for the cinema ages. It is one where there's a scene where he's talking about little things like giving advice on how to keep warm by stomping your feet, or little things too, like when he says the word bookkeeper in a very critical scene, and then the phrase to "what are you prepared to do," and the rugged lines that he gives from the heart, from the soul. And you can tell that his whole life seems to be on the line when he's delivering these brilliant lines of dialogue to Elliot Ness and company. So this is, again, Malone, one of the great characters of the age, and one of the great strengths of a film that has so many strengths. It is this film, The Untouchables. And so this is one of my favorite works by Brian De Palma. It is one of my favorite works of the 80s. It is one of my favorite works in the context of the police film genre, indeed in the context of these 31 days. One of my absolute favorite films, and it remains that way. It has remained that way since I first saw it, and I know it will remain that way for my remaining years. This is truly a great example of cinema indeed, and I love this film so much. It is so great indeed. This is the work, again, from 1987 from Brian De Palma. This is the work that is The Untouchables. Okay, my dear friends, so that's it for now. Please join me for one more video. There will be one more video discussion in these 31 days for the other genre discussion, the gangster genre discussion. But as far as the police film discussions go, thank you so much for joining me along for these discussions. It has been a real great honor to have been able to do so with you. And so thank you. So maybe, if you don't mind, let me indulge myself with one line from this film, The Untouchables. This is the blood oath scene. This is my very poor impersonation of Sean Connery, but I hope you can forgive me. Do you want to get Capone? Here's how to get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way, and that's how to get Capone. Sorry, I had to do that. Couldn't resist. I hope you can forgive me, my dear friends. But in the meantime, thank you so much. And until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers. What are you prepared to do?